2026 is not about becoming someone new. It's about returning to who you were before fear, distraction, and exhaustion taught you to play small. Rebuilding yourself starts with one honest decision: to stop outsourcing your power. Your habits shape your identity shapes your future, and the brain rewires itself around what you practice daily. This means every small choice you repeat is either reinforcing the old version of you or constructing the next level. Rebuilding is not dramatic. It is disciplined. It is waking up and choosing progress over comfort. It is training your nervous system to stay calm under pressure, your mind to focus instead of fragment, and your standards to rise even when motivation disappears. You don't wait to feel confident before you act. Confidence is built through action. You don't wait for clarity. Clarity comes from movement. In 2026, rebuild your routines, rebuild your self-talk, rebuild your boundaries. Protect your energy like it's your greatest asset, because it is. When you align intention with execution, momentum replaces doubt. This year, don't chase outcomes. Become the person for whom those outcomes are inevitable. Rebuilding your identity through daily discipline begins with understanding that who you are is not a fixed label but a pattern you repeat. Identity is not discovered, it is constructed. And it is constructed through the smallest actions you perform consistently. Motivation is unreliable because it depends on mood, energy, and external circumstances, but discipline is internal. Discipline is the ability to act in alignment with your values even when you feel tired, uncertain, or uninspired. Every time you choose discipline, you are casting a vote for the person you are becoming. And every time you avoid it, you reinforce the version of yourself you claim you want to outgrow. Daily discipline rewires the brain. Neuroscience shows that repeated behaviors strengthen neural pathways, meaning your habits literally shape how you think, respond, and decide. When you show up consistently, even in small ways, your brain begins to expect that behavior. Over time, effort becomes automatic, resistance weakens, and discipline turns into identity. You stop forcing yourself to act because acting becomes who you are. This is how lasting change happens. Not through sudden breakthroughs, but through repetition that compounds quietly. Rebuilding yourself requires removing the illusion that you need to feel ready. Readiness is a feeling, discipline is a practice. Waiting to feel confident, inspired, or fearless keeps you trapped in the same cycle. Discipline bypasses emotion and relies on commitment. You do the work regardless of how you feel, and the feelings catch up later. This is how self-trust is built. Each disciplined action sends a signal to your nervous system that you are reliable, that you keep promises to yourself, and that you are capable of consistency. Discipline also creates boundaries. When you commit to daily practices, you become more selective with your time, energy, and attention. You stop negotiating with distractions and start protecting your focus. This is essential because identity erosion often happens through small compromises repeated over time. Saying yes when you should say no, postponing what matters, numbing instead of confronting. Discipline reverses this process by creating structure. Structure reduces decision fatigue, and reduced decision fatigue increases follow-through. As discipline becomes your default, your self-image begins to shift. You no longer see yourself as someone who tries, but as someone who does. This change influences how you speak, how you move, and how you respond to challenges. You approach difficulty with less emotional reactivity and more strategic thinking. Discipline strengthens emotional regulation because it teaches you to tolerate discomfort without escaping it. This tolerance is what allows growth to occur. Over time, daily discipline builds resilience. You stop being shaken by inconsistency because consistency is now part of your character. You stop seeking validation because your confidence is rooted in evidence, the evidence of showing up every day. Identity rebuilt through discipline is stable, adaptable, and grounded in action, not opinion. Each day becomes an opportunity to reinforce this identity through deliberate choice, repeated behaviors, and aligned actions that shape who you are becoming. In real time, training your mind and nervous system to perform under pressure begins with understanding that pressure is not the enemy, unpreparedness is. Pressure reveals patterns that already exist within you. When stress rises, the nervous system defaults to its most practiced responses. If those responses are avoidance, overthinking, or emotional reactivity, pressure will amplify them. If those responses are focus, regulation, and decisive action, pressure becomes a performance advantage. This is why training is essential. You do not rise to the occasion, you fall back on your conditioning. The nervous system is constantly scanning for safety or threat. When it perceives danger, real or imagined, it shifts into survival mode. Breathing becomes shallow, attention narrows, and the brain prioritizes short-term relief over long-term strategy. Under pressure, this can look like freezing, rushing, or self-sabotage. Training teaches the nervous system that discomfort is not danger. Through repeated exposure to controlled stress, the body learns that it can remain calm and functional even when conditions are demanding. Mental training starts with awareness. You must recognize your internal signals before they escalate. Increased heart rate, muscle tension, rapid thoughts, and emotional spikes are not signs of weakness. They are signals asking for regulation. When you respond with intentional breathing, slower movement, and grounded posture, you send a message of safety to the brain. This shifts your physiology out of threat mode and back into performance mode. Regulation always precedes clarity. Focus under pressure is a trained skill, not a personality trait. The mind naturally seeks certainty, and under stress it jumps to worst-case scenarios or distractions. Training attention means repeatedly bringing it back to what is controllable. One task, one decision, one action at a time. This reduces cognitive overload and prevents emotional spirals. The brain performs best when complexity is simplified, and pressure demands simplicity. Emotional discipline is another core component of pressure performance. Emotions are data, not directives. When untrained, they dictate behavior. When trained, they inform strategy. Learning to observe emotion without immediately reacting creates psychological space. In that space, you gain choice. You can choose response over reaction, intention over impulse. This is what separates those who collapse under pressure from those who sharpen. Consistency in training matters more than intensity. Short daily practices of breath control, mental rehearsal, and stress exposure build long-term resilience. Visualizing yourself staying calm and effective in challenging situations strengthens the same neural circuits used in real experiences. The brain does not fully distinguish between imagined and actual practice. Rehearsal conditions the nervous system to respond with familiarity instead of panic. Physical state also influences mental performance. Sleep, hydration, and movement directly affect how the nervous system processes stress. A dysregulated body cannot support a focused mind. Training under pressure includes respecting recovery because resilience is built during rest as much as during effort. Ignoring this leads to burnout, which lowers tolerance and increases emotional volatility. As your training compounds, your relationship with pressure changes. You no longer interpret it as a signal to escape, but as a cue to engage. Your body remains steadier. Your thoughts become more deliberate, and your actions more precise. Pressure becomes a signal to apply your tools rather than abandon them. Performance under pressure is not about eliminating stress. It is about expanding your capacity to function within it. The more you train your mind and nervous system, the wider that capacity becomes, allowing you to operate with clarity, control, and presence, even when stakes are high, aligning your habits, boundaries, and standards with the future version of you begins with the understanding that your future is built in the present, not imagined in it. The person you want to become is not waiting for a perfect moment or a dramatic shift. That version of you is shaped by what you repeatedly tolerate, practice, and prioritize today. Every habit you keep is a vote for a certain future. And every boundary you fail to enforce is a silent agreement with a past version of yourself that no longer fits. Habits are the visible architecture of identity. They are not random behaviors, but automated decisions that reflect your self-image. When your habits are misaligned with your future, Progress feels heavy and inconsistent. Alignment requires intentional design. You do not ask what feels easy or familiar. You ask what the future version of you would consider non-negotiable. Small habits, when aligned, create momentum because they reduce internal conflict. You stop negotiating with yourself and start executing from clarity. Boundaries are the protective system that allows those habits to survive. Without boundaries, even the best intentions collapse under pressure. Boundaries are not walls, they are filters. They determine what you allow access to your time, energy, and attention. Misaligned boundaries often come from fear of rejection, conflict, or discomfort. But every time you overextend, you dilute your standards. The future version of you operates with discernment, not guilt. Aligning boundaries means say no without explanation, and yes without resentment. Standards define the minimum you accept, not the maximum you chase. Most people fail to evolve not because they lack ambition, but because their standards are too low. They tolerate inconsistency, distraction, and emotional chaos while expecting extraordinary outcomes. The future version of you holds higher standards in thought, behavior, and environment. This does not mean perfection. It means precision. Precision in how you speak to yourself, how you respond to challenges, and how you recover from setbacks. Alignment also requires letting go. You cannot build a future identity while clinging to habits that contradict it. This may mean releasing routines that once served you, relationships that drain you, or narratives that limit you. Letting go creates space, and space is necessary for growth. Growth is not always about adding more. Sometimes it is about subtracting what no longer aligns. Environment plays a powerful role in alignment. Your surroundings either reinforce your future or anchor you to your past. Visual cues, digital inputs, and daily interactions shape your behavior more than willpower ever will. Designing an environment that supports focus, calm, and execution reduces the need for constant self-control. The future version of you does not rely on motivation, it relies on systems. Alignment is a daily practice, not a one-time decision. Each day presents opportunities to choose the future over familiarity. This choice is often subtle and uncelebrated, but it compounds. Over time, aligned habits strengthen your self-trust, boundaries protect your momentum, and higher standards refine your behavior. You begin to move with intention instead of reaction, clarity instead of confusion. As alignment deepens, your identity stabilizes. You no longer oscillate between extremes or chase validation. Your actions become congruent with your values, and that congruence creates confidence. Confidence built this way is quiet and grounded. It does not depend on outcomes or approval, but on integrity between who you are now and who you are becoming. When your habits, boundaries, and standards are aligned with your future self, growth becomes sustainable, effort becomes focused, and progress becomes inevitable. In conclusion, rebuilding yourself in 2026 is not about chasing a sudden transformation or waiting for the right circumstances. It is about intentional, consistent action, disciplining your habits, training your mind and nervous system to perform under pressure, and aligning your boundaries and standards with the person you aim to become. Every small choice, every repeated action, and every protected boundary compounds over time to create the identity you desire. By committing to this process, you lay a foundation of resilience, clarity, and focus, ensuring that the future version of yourself is not a distant dream, but a living reality unfolding from the choices you make today.